I'm Monica Porter, 34 years old, an architect in Boston. By most measures, I had everything I had once dreamed of: a townhouse in Back Bay, a car I paid off myself, and a career I'd built brick by brick through years of long nights and endless drafts. My life was far from easy, but it was mine. Proof that hard work and sacrifice could carve out something solid in a world that rarely gives second chances. For years, my family doubted me. My brother Gavin was their pride and joy, the golden child who stumbled through failed business ventures, bad decisions, and reckless spending. I was the reliable one, the one they never worried about, because I always figured things out. What they never saw was how much it cost me to do that: every late shift, every scholarship application, every time I swallowed disappointment when their attention turned back to Gavin. But even knowing all that, nothing could have prepared me for what happened after I returned from a project in Philadelphia, a project that had kept me away for 8 months. I remember that day vividly. My flight landed in Boston just after 2 hours. Mum. My body ached from travel, but all I could think about was slipping into my own bed, under the skylight I had designed myself, surrounded by the shelves I'd built with my own hands. I rented a car at the airport and drove down familiar streets, my heart light with the thought of home. But as soon as I turned onto Commonwealth Avenue, my chest tightened. A moving truck blocked my driveway. 2 men in overalls carried furniture through my front door, the door to my house. My first instinct was to think I'd made a mistake. So I checked the street sign, the number on the house. 47 Commonwealth. No mistake. My house. I parked and rushed up to the front steps. My keys clutched in a shaking hand. I pushed one into the lock. It didn't budge. My key, the one I had carried for years, was useless. Before I could try again, a woman stepped outside. She was in her 40s, sharp blazer, sharp eyes, the kind of person who looked like she belonged on a real estate brochure. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone cautious, almost irritated. My voice trembled, but I forced it steady. "This is my house. I'm Monica Porter, Monica." She frowned, then called for her husband. Together, they explained calmly, almost casually, that they had bought this house 2 months earlier. They showed me a folder with legal papers, a stamped deed, and my stomach dropped. My townhouse had been sold. My name was nowhere on the paperwork. The sale price, $500,000. I barely heard them after that, because behind them, on the curb, was a line of trash bags. My trash bags, my clothes, my sketchbooks, my photo albums, even my grandmother's necklace, all dumped like garbage, soaked through from rain the night before. I tore open the bags, desperation making my hands clumsy, pages from my old journals stuck together. A framed photo from my first job cracked down the middle, years of my life, ruined. I wanted to scream. Instead, I asked the question I already dreaded. "Where's my car?" The husband shrugged. No car came with the house. My black sedan, the one I had saved years for, was gone too. Shaking, I called my parents. No answer. I tried Gavin. Straight to voicemail. Something was wrong, and I already knew in my gut what it was. I got back into the rental and drove straight to my parents' house in Newton. Their colonial looked picture perfect as always. White shutters and a tidy lawn. I walked inside without knocking. There they were, George and Pamela Porter, sitting in the living room with coffee, like it was any other morning. I didn't bother with pleasantries. "Why did you sell my house?" My mom's face paled, her hands twisting together. My dad, ever the stoic one, looked me straight in the eye. "We had no choice," he said. My heart thudded in my ears. What kind of trouble could possibly justify this, I demanded. Mom's voice broke. It was Gavin. He owed $500,000. Dangerous people. We had to help him. I could barely breathe. They had sold my house, my car, my life's work, not to save themselves, not because of some unavoidable disaster, but to cover Gavin's gambling debts. My dad's voice grew sharper, defensive. Don't be selfish. Monica, family comes first. Gavin needed us. Selfish. That word cut deeper than anything. My whole life had been a series of sacrifices, and they still saw me as selfish for wanting to keep the home I had earned. Mom reached for my arm, tears spilling down her cheeks, begging me to understand. But I pulled away. You didn't just sell my house, you sold my trust, and I will not let this go. When I told them I was taking them to court, Mom gasped as though I'd threatened her life. Dad barked that I was overreacting, but I had never been clearer. They crossed a line, and I was done protecting them. I walked out before their pleading could wear me down. That night, in a sterile hotel room, I stared at the few salvaged things I had pulled from the trash. My cracked photo frame, my warped sketchbooks, my destroyed memories. My family had stripped me of everything, and for once, I refused to stay silent. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a text from an unfamiliar number. It was from Julie Morgan, Gavin's ex-girlfriend. I hadn't spoken to her in years, but the message was direct. I know what happened to your house. Meet me at the Thinking Cup at 2 Hours Row, Pum. My stomach clenched. I didn't trust easily anymore, but I needed answers. The cafe was bustling when I arrived, the air heavy with roasted coffee beans. Julie sat in a corner booth, her dark hair tied back, her expression wary but resolute. When I slid into the seat across from her, she didn't waste time. Monica, I'm sorry about your house. I think you should know the truth. Gavin owes $500,000 to a gambling ring. Dangerous people. Your parents didn't just sell your house, they forged a power of attorney to make it legal. Her words landed like a physical blow. Forged. I asked how she knew, and she pulled out her phone, showing me an email Gavin had sent months earlier, bragging that the debts were covered thanks to some paperwork. Attached was a scanned copy of a document bearing my signature. I hadn't signed it. Or at least, not knowingly. Then it hit me. Months before leaving for Philadelphia, Mom had dropped by with a stack of papers, saying they were routine documents for house maintenance. I'd been distracted. Packing, answering work emails. I'd signed them without reading. My chest burned as I realized the trap I had walked into. Julie pushed a small USB drive across the table. This has everything I saved. Texts, emails, his admissions. Use it. Her voice softened. I know what it's like to be used by him. Don't let him destroy you too. I thanked her, gripping the drive as if it were a lifeline. As soon as I left, I dialed the one person I knew I could trust, Benjamin Larson, my best friend from college and a lawyer in Boston. My voice shook as I explained. Ben, they forged my signature. They sold my house and my car. I need to sue them. He didn't hesitate. Bring me everything. We'll fight this. In his downtown office later that afternoon, I slid the USB drive across his desk. Ben loaded the files and scrolled through emails where Gavin bragged about tricking me and references to a notary who owed him a favor. Then came the forged document itself. Stamped and notarized 6 months earlier, with my fake consent scrawled at the bottom. Ben leaned back, his face grim. This is fraud. Monica, if we can prove the notary took a bribe, we'll have them cornered. For the first time since everything collapsed, I felt a spark of hope. But that hope was tested almost immediately. The next day, I got a call from my Aunt Carol, My father's sister. Her voice was tight, urgent. Monica, I heard what you're planning. Please, don't do this. Your parents were desperate. Gavin's life was at risk. Don't tear the family apart. I nearly dropped the phone, anger surging through me. They already tore it apart. They sold everything I had. They forged my signature. Carol's reply was cold, almost rehearsed. You can rebuild. Don't send your parents to prison over money. That word again. Money. As if it was just about a house or a car, as if my entire life's work was replaceable. I hung up, my jaw tight, my resolve harder than ever. Meanwhile, Ben subpoenaed the notary's records. A week later, he called me with the results. The notary's bank account shows a deposit of $15,000 right after notarizing the power of attorney. It came from your father's account. There it was. Proof. My parents hadn't just betrayed me morally, they had committed a crime. Ben's voice was calm but firm. We file the lawsuit. Fraud, forgery, and conversion of property. With this evidence and Julie's testimony, we have a strong case. The following month, I stood outside the Suffolk County Courthouse, dressed in a black blazer, my hands clammy but steady. I wasn't just fighting for my house, I was fighting for every year I had been treated as expendable, for every time Gavin had been shielded at my expense. Inside, the courtroom buzzed with whispers. My parents sat at the defense table, pale and nervous. Gavin slouched beside them, avoiding my eyes. When the judge entered, the room stilled. Ben opened with our case, presenting the forged power of attorney, the notary's payment, and Julie's testimony. Each piece of evidence struck like a hammer, shattering any defense they might have had. The notary, sweating under questioning, admitted he hadn't verified my presence when the papers were signed. He confessed he'd been paid $15,000 to make it official. Julie testified next, her voice clear as she explained Gavin's debt and his gloating emails. When Ben displayed those messages on the screen, I saw my brother shift uncomfortably, his face pale. The defense tried to argue desperation, claiming my parents acted to save Gavin's life. But desperation didn't excuse fraud. Ben's closing words echoed through the courtroom. They didn't ask Monica. They deceived her, destroyed her property, and betrayed her trust. That is not family. That is theft. As the judge reviewed the evidence, my heart pounded in my chest. I braced myself for the verdict that would decide not only the case, but the rest of my family ties. The courtroom was silent as the judge shuffled the papers before him. My palms were damp, my breath shallow. Finally, he looked up, his voice steady and commanding. This court finds in favor of the plaintiff, Ms. Monica Porter. The words struck me like thunder. I gripped the edge of the table to keep my knees from buckling. The judge continued, the defendants, George and Pamela Porter, are guilty of fraud and conversion of property. The forged power of attorney is hereby nullified. The sale of the property is reversed. Restitution of $500,000 is ordered, along with damages for emotional distress. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. My parents sat frozen, shock etched into their faces. Gavin swore under his breath, his fists clenched. I barely heard the rest of the ruling, only the part that mattered. I had won. My home, my name, my dignity. They weren't gone after all. As soon as the gavel struck,